Good afternoon. Hello.
Good morning. Sorry, good afternoon, sir.
Hello. Hello. Am I audible?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, dear. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
I know this is a silly question, but still I want to ask, am I audible? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Okay. So we are going to be only a couple of students and me. I have received a couple of messages that due to some problems, some of them are not going to attend. But that will not prevent us to start learning something new today. Okay, last time we tried to understand how coherent this paragraph is, and we asked certain questions. Let me come back to you with this paragraph. You might have seen how the cycle chain functions, how paddle functions, how you move forward. Once you do paddle, the front wheel is forced to go ahead. And the force is coming from the rear tire. And this image you have to understand with the kind of writing you do. The force, the rear wheel is allowing that force to be transferred to the chain, which you see connected all the time. Coherence plays that role in writing. Now you see each word in the paragraph in front of your screen will talk about credit cards, advantages, and disadvantages. One sentence is connected to the second sentence and makes it a chain of thoughts pushing the idea that credit cards are convenient but dangerous. So this is how a paragraph should be written. We will take one paragraph later on how to write a paragraph. And if it is not possible in the class, I'll upload that in different platform, maybe on YouTube or maybe on Google Classroom. Okay, so I hope there is no question at this point on paragraph and how to achieve coherence. Okay. Why it is important in English as an academic program? Okay, let me admit that. Okay, so it may happen that while you are writing, you drift off, you get diverted, and it may happen. And that's why at some stage you feel that you are not able to deliver in writing what exactly you want to write. So the reason is the mind works faster than your hand. And the argument doesn't hold too much on focus. And that's where people often fear of writing. There is always a chance that you will get a better idea than the first one or the second one. So it is natural to get diverted when you start writing. And this is especially true when you are reading too much. In academics, you have to read a lot. It may be a journal articles, it may be research dissertation, maybe primary text, or even the lecture notes. And from those sources, you try to build an argument. And you may have a difficulty in choice. Which argument should I take? Which one is stronger? If A is stronger, do I have enough evidences to support my argument? No. B is stronger than A, but C is the strongest one. But I don't have any evidences to support. So the first thing that comes to your writing is the idea, what argument I'm putting in my writing. If you know your arguments, then you will search for evidences. And once the argument is focused, there won't be any diversion. And English for academic purposes is about all this. How to have a clear, focused, well-defined argument, and how to support it with evidences, either from research that you do or research that somebody else has done, right? So drifting off, diverting, diversions is a natural and need not to be worried. You just have to prioritize what arguments you are going to talk about in your writing. And the whole exercise to find a suitable argument for your writing can be considered as a brainstorming exercise. So even before you write anything, you have to undergo that process, because that will help you to define your arguments and prioritize the argument. Right? Okay. Now, when coherence is not there in writing, the readers might find lots of arguments or less of argument. So, as a writer, you may say that this is well-written paragraph or an essay, but while the reader is reading, he may not find the convince aspect, the persuasive aspect of your writing. And that can make the reader go away from your page. They might put you off because there is no unified central argument supported by evidences and examples. If you look at the previous paragraph, you will find that each sentence leads to another, and either is an example or evidence. And then there is a change in the argument and the tone as well. And it is indicated through words such as but, however. So when he wants to talk about the disadvantage, he uses the previous idea of convenience to talk about the disadvantage. You can read the sentence, however, this convenience comes at a high price, and that is interest rates. So the entire focus of the first three sentences is about convenience, and now he is transiting from another aspect. So as a reader, I get a clear idea that, okay, he is talking about advantages of credit card in first three sentences, and then he talks about the disadvantages, and his main focus has remained on the interest rates that credit card companies offer. So as a reader, I get the writer's argument, and I would like to know his views further. that writer is capable of handling the attention of the reader, not only the educated or economically aware, but layman as well. That's why coherent is important. And third advantage is that you avoid readers' misunderstanding. That in order to convince your point of view, you need that coherence. And this is the pattern where coherence is derived. Your topic sentence, then example or explanation, and then evidence, and then reiterate what you want to say. So there are less chances that your reader gets any misunderstanding. So coherence allows greater understanding, and it persuades readers' attention. So whenever you write at least a sentence, try to think why I am writing this. What is the purpose of writing this? What is the objective of writing this? And because you are writing undergraduate thesis, a dissertation, and you are conducting research, if you are clear on what you are going to convey to your examiner, your supervisor, you will be able to write better, and they will be interested in reading what you are going to, what you want to convey. So coherence is the first step that we should aim in our writing, because with coherence, everything else will follow. Any questions so far? Okay. Now, there are different aspects of EAP, and the first one, not this first, second one. The first one was the language focus. In this programs, the socio-cultural background of the learners are taken into consideration. Since we talked about that all the EAP are addressed to international students. So, and they want to learn English in a new academic environment. New academic environment means where English is the first language of instruction. And this new academic environment has lots to offer, and students have to grab a lot of new information coupled with the old one. So how that socio-cultural background plays an important role, we need to understand. Because the first thing we did was that these programs are for international students. And when you say international, you can imagine the kind of variety of students that may sit in a university setup. And that's where we need to understand maybe their age, their age is similar if they are in undergraduate class. So all of them might have passed their 12th standard or A-levels. There may be a possibility that a mature student may be there, but nonetheless, almost the age of students would be similar. We can say that they all come from 12 years of education, in short. That means their age would be around 17 to 18, not less than that, or not more than that on an average level. So they would be on a same age level, and that makes them a unique group. But within this unique group, there is a diversity, and that diversity relates to culture. and discipline. Let's take the example of our class. There are students from, let's say, Shruti and Arya. They come from Keralite background, but they were educated in Gujarat, if I'm not wrong. They speak 2 languages, no, 3. Laya has a different background. She comes, as far as I know, and she can correct me if she can chat. She comes from a different academic background. Her age is quite different than the rest of us. Chitali, Vidhi, Jaimin, Parisha, they all come from Gujarati background. And we can see the difference in their cultures, the way the class is not homogeneous. Age, culture, language, even their attitude and expectations are absolutely different. You may have a strong bonding because of your age or your interest, but still we are different. And in EAP programs, this has to be taken into consideration because your attitude towards teachers would be different. Though you are friends, your expectation from the programs might be different. Your previous experiences with English teachers would be different. Like when I was not teaching you, Madhav sir was teaching you. So your expectation would be different from me. And I was teaching to international group of students in South Africa and UK. So my expectations from you would be different. My attitude would be different. So this is how the heterogeneity elements allows us to understand how socio-cultural background would impact the programs, especially delivered in English-speaking country. So the first influence, it's a first language and literacy skills. Your first language, maybe Tamil, maybe Telugu, maybe Punjabi, your accent, your own literacy and numeracy skills. I am not good at mathematics and I say it loud and clear. But that doesn't mean that I may not be able to give you examples related to maths. Last year, we did a statistical analysis with Harsh work. Even Hethav's work was based on mathematical formulas. So my and your first language and literacy skills matters and influences the way we are going to deliver as a teachers and students English for academic purposes. You may not have some habits which my previous students would have. For example, note taking. And after the session is over, they will show me their notes. Is that what you taught today? And that's an absolutely a pleasure to read the notes from the students based on the classes and then discuss upon it. In Indian context, I have not come across students like those in an international background. So their culture, you can see the difference, how students can approach teachers, because it's this is considered one of the study skills taught from their pre-primary to higher secondary school period. Their context and attitude, especially educational, is absolutely impacting and influencing the way they conduct. In some cultures, it is said that anything written on Google or anything published anywhere, one has a right to copy because it's written. Copyright is having a right to copy. And I've heard this sentence many times. But you cannot do that without referencing, without following the academic conventions. It is not intended, but it's lack of awareness. You can quote somebody, you have to paraphrase and you have to acknowledge somebody's word. Okay, this is where I took the material and I mean, this is what he means. So you acknowledge. So it's honest way to say that I am referring to somebody else's word. These ideas are not my own. I have taken the help of somebody else's idea to prove my argument. And there is nothing wrong. Like it's academic life is dependent on arguments and research and discoveries and inventions that previous generation has done. And by acknowledging that, you give them their due respect. But if you just copy the material, it's a dishonesty, it's a stealing. And academic stealing is the highest kind of theft one can do. And it should be, it must be avoided at any cost. You might hear later that universities are checking plagiarism level in your writing. If you go for PhD level, fortunately in undergraduate and master's level, it's not there. Very serious, but it's not there, that's fact. So one has to avoid, because it influences the way you have been taught, the way you have been, conditioned in an academic environment. That's one factor. So how does it impact? So you, as a practitioner, English language practitioner, you show the sensitivity towards these issues. And this will make your choice of materials. You might have seen in the previous slides that I had written that I have taken this material from this website, the whole paragraph of credit card. This shows that I am using somebody else's material to talk something else. And that's absolutely fine. I can take a textbook from NCERT and use it to teach my ELT students. But then I have to acknowledge that this is not my work. I have taken help of NCERT book writers, and it should be given credit. Otherwise, the value system, the ethics that we want to inculcate in the students might not come out. It's a very easy task to copy and write, not acknowledging somebody, because walking on an easy path is what we look for. So it impacts as a teacher and as a learner. So one has to avoid that. So if you become aware of learners' divergent and sociocultural norms, you will become tolerant of their practices. But that doesn't mean that tolerance will be accepted to do copy and plagiarism. But then raising an awareness is the task of a teacher, right? And whatever the social, cultural and academic backgrounds the students come from. And you will see in your research articles later on, if you do masters, you will realize that some people publish their research without acknowledging the ideas that were original. So we have to make sure that EAP practitioners endeavor to raise learners' awareness about these issues, right? So any questions so far? Okay, so any questions?
No, sir.
Okay, so what are the challenges for EAP practitioners? The first challenge is to design the course. When I say design the course, I mean to say that you know what your learners want and you cater that need. So designing courses involves a lot of research on your part as an English language teacher. Suppose my IELTS students, they have taken IELTS before and they need specific practice on academic writing task 1, that is 150 words. If I don't understand their needs, I won't be able to deliver what they need. And therefore, I need to understand what they require. So they require only academic task 1, 150 words, where charts, diagrams, and academic understanding of writing the language is required. So I will cater that need very carefully. Each of the class, each of the course component would lead towards achieving students writing 150 words minimum with clear understanding what the chart means, what the bar graph means, what the process is trying to suggest. Even within the graphs, where the focus is, what kind of languages the examiners are looking for, I would cater that need. And that need would come from my course. And these course points will allow me to select the materials that I'm going to use in the classroom. If my focus is on graph, then my all material will be related to the chart, different charts, different graphs, maybe bar graph, maybe pie chart, maybe histogram. And from there, students will be able to understand what is they are supposed to do. Then I have to understand that this material will not be suitable for all the learners because they all come from different backgrounds. I remember while I was teaching IELTS, my students come from management, medicine, nursing, arts. So for management students with statistical background, with strong mathematical ideas, clear ideas, they would interpret the chart very easily and they would write it. And my art students would find it difficult. So my challenge is my interdisciplinary students would ask me to do something interdisciplinary in the course. So I have to cater the needs of my students. Sorry. And when I do that, I have to remember that I have to focus on skills from LSRW perspective, discipline-free practices. That means whether they are from management, whether they are from medicine, pharmacy, nursing, whatever their background is in terms of education, they should be able to practice my course without prior knowledge of English language, or it should not be discipline specific. If it is discipline specific, all students will not be able to cope with them. Okay, and the next challenge is, because their socio-economic and cultural backgrounds are heterogeneous, they may not have similar study skills. Study skills as note-taking, summarizing, paragraphing, paraphrasing, even scanning and scheming, and referencing. I remember that I had to teach how to summarize, how to get main ideas from a paragraph, from the essay, from the book. When you review something, what do you review? When you read for quickest possible way to answer, what is scanning? Nobody knows these techniques. These are study skills that I'm extremely sorry, but Gujarat board and some of the boards in India, the teachers don't focus it. The study skill component, how to take notes. Notes are being delivered ready-made. The best way is to get it photocopied, and before night you read and appear for the exam. So EAP courses don't have such practices, because language is at stake. If you try to copy something in your writing, in your speaking, you won't be able to develop competencies. And remember, EAP or any English as a foreign language course that you are going to take will focus on developing competencies, right? So we need to understand as a teacher that all the students might not have taken their schooling or even the college period, these study skills. So you can build in the classroom how to take notes, how to summarize the entire book, how to summarize a paragraph, how to paraphrase somebody's quote without copying, without showing that you do plagiarism, right? So these are the skills that one needs to inculcate among students while taking EAP. And it is a challenge because not everybody in your class would be either ready for this or equipped with this. Some of them may be and some of them not. So how do you bring all the students on the same platform? So it's a challenge. So it's a student-centered approach, as you have seen so far, where students remain at the center, not the teacher. Though teacher does everything, their competencies are to be developed among students, and it requires a lot of critical thinking. And you have to allow students to use their brain as much as possible. Because if they use their brain, their mind, as Noam Chomsky said, that we have this structure in our mind. So if we use that idea to make students understand from the context, get the meaning from the context. You can do lots of activities, and there are hundreds of activities online. You can ask from the title, like we did, writing for myself, and I asked you to guess what does it mean. Dil Bechara. You can give title. If you want to make it more interesting, bring in film elements, bring in the cartoon elements, bring in the elements which students are familiar with. Ask them to guess, and don't restrict their guessing. No, this is not the right way to, you are going in a wrong direction. Okay, that's an interesting, wow. I haven't thought of that idea. That's interesting, guess. Very good. But you are still off the track. Can you come back again with a new answer? This is how you can encourage and motivate to start students to think, and then you can give problems. Always remember that we all love to solve problems. We love challenges. We love games. So can you make a language problem? Can you make a game out of language? Can you create something that interests students to solve the problem based on language? And this this helps students to motivate themselves within the classroom environment, and their sense of autonomy. Remember, we talked about autonomy in the class, that students' autonomy should be given. So students use their freedom to apply whatever they are learning to new context. And this is what we want, to make students read, write, speak, and listen English in an academic context. So one has to remember that it's a student-centered approach, and we want simulations, interactions, and talking about different learning styles. The learners know how to learn, but they are different, and we have to cater those needs. There are multiple intelligence, there are multiple interests, and we have to think how to increase from bottom, remembering to create. Yeah, right. Remember Bloom's taxonomy, the pyramid we talked about, higher order thinking skills. We need to go from remember to create. If students are able to create an essay on the topic given, they have already acquired your language and they know how to do it. So within classroom, you have to create such situations where students get interaction, motivation, simulations, and try to solve the problems. And that's where your critical thinking in the classroom is required the most. So let's understand, is a time factor? What are the, yes, time is a factor. We are just 2 minutes away. So let me stop here. And if you have any questions, if you want to discuss something, we can discuss. Is there anything that you want to, Laya, Shivani, Arya, that you want to talk about? Okay. Can you please share? Okay, this is not from your class. Okay. Okay. So there is a time factor. It's just 1 minute and less. So I'm not going to discuss anything new. So let's go back to what we discussed and revise it very quickly. Yes. Coherence is what we discussed today. We try to understand why plagiarism should not be there. We try to get an idea of socio-cultural background of students as well as teachers. Their age would be similar, but their culture, discipline, attitudes, and expectations would be different. The influences of EAP learners would be the first language and the literacy skills they have. Their prior educational background and attitudes along with the parents' educational background. The impact is the cultural sensitivity towards this to make the choice of materials such as text, activities, and discussions. The next thing we discussed, that what are the challenges for the EAP practitioners? So